If you love fantasy romance books, but you feel like everybody read the same exact books last year, so you don't really know whose recommendation to trust, then this video is for you. I am a certified Romantasy reader, and I will be so for real with you about the vibes of these books. Because these are the books that you might have missed in 2025 that definitely deserve a spot on your TBR this year. Some of these books I read last year completely surprised me. Others wrecked me emotionally. And the cliffhangers, I needed like 3 to 5 business days to process. Okay, I'm still processing some of them. And one of them fully reminded me why I love Romantasy books in the first place. Hey book bestie, welcome back to my channel. If I'm a new face to you, my name is Lauren, aka Lauren Page Reads, over here on YouTube, but also over on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure to check me out there. Today I'm sharing the fantasy romance books that stood out for me in 2025 that might have been overlooked because, you know, like there was so much going on. Some of them were really big titles, and so people didn't know if the recommendations were actually good or if it was hype. And a full year later, I can tell you if the books were actually good, because all 6 of these books are must-reads for your 2026 TBR. These aren't just books like that I enjoyed in the moment. These are books that fully swept me away, and I was like no longer here. I was in a totally different fantasy realm within my mind, and they stuck with me. Like, I am still thinking about them months later. So what's going to happen is I'm going to tell you what the book is about, what I loved about it, and why I think you should definitely read it. Like right now, like get your Barnes Noble tab open and get ready. And don't worry, everything is going to be spoiler free. So if some of these seem vague, just know that book is like legitimately crazy. Okay. Also, all of these books will be linked in the description of this video, and if you click on that link and purchase any of the books through that link, you are helping to support a small creator, so thank you very much. And let's just get right into these books. The first book that I present to you is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. My copy is actually behind me. That's my copy on my trophy shelf, you know. But Shield of Sparrows follows Odessa, who is a princess who is forced to marry a king of a neighboring country just to have alliance with and keep all of the kingdoms happy for that generation, aka the Sparrow. She has spent her entire life kneeling to duty and expectation. She's a second-born daughter, after all. But now, as they travel back to her new husband's kingdom, she realizes that everything is not as it all seemed in hers. Also, she like really hates him. Really hates him. So monsters are stalking the land and attacking, and these long buried secrets about her role as Sparrow begin to surface. And Odessa is pushed to question everything that she's learned and been taught about obedience and sacrifice and strength and what it means to be a princess and this alliance marriage that she had to go into. So what starts as survival at the beginning of this book becomes a fight for agency and identity. What I loved about this book was that when it was released, it felt like a pivotal moment in the 2025 book releases, right? Like, I remember when I first heard about this book, and yes, it was over TikTok, because Silver Elite, it came out at the same time as Silver Elite, and Silver Elite was getting so much like hype and being like, who wrote it, blah, blah, blah. Shield of Sparrows was like, oh my gosh, and it was absolutely bonkers. That gave me the exact same feeling as when Fourth Wing was released a few years prior, and me just having this realization of like, this might be the next big Romantasy book. I need to go and read it ASAP. And I walked to the bookstore on my lunch break, and I spent the rest of my lunch break, like the next 15-30 minutes, reading the first couple chapters, and I was in love with it. Those moments, like those first few chapters, is when I knew that this book wasn't just hype. This book was a whole vibe. It was a whole vibe. The world building swept me away, and I had to fight to refocus on my job on a Friday afternoon, okay? Because Devney Perry did not make it easy to get out of that world. That's how much I loved it. It wasn't just like the world building. The storytelling was phenomenal, but I also loved watching Odessa truly come into her own and like become herself. Does that make sense? It also hits some of my favorite classic romantasy tropes, like enemies to lovers, a lot of tension, forced proximity, the banter. Yeah. There's a whole training montage with the guy that she shouldn't have feelings for, but she does. And that slow burn tension, the uncovering of secrets, and watching her experience genuine happiness and autonomy for the first time in her life. And the cliffhanger at the end? Yeah, I immediately called friends and we had theories about it, okay? That is a phenomenal sign. This is a must read for your TBR in 2026 if you are chasing that genre-defining feeling again. Like when we read ACOTAR, when we read Throne of Glass, when we read Fourth Wing. Some of these major books that define the footprint and have put romantasy on the map as its own genre. I will get off my soapbox though. Whoa, I got really passionate about that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a whole video essay on romantasy genre. Shield of Sparrows is the kind of book that will help remind you why you fell in love with reading romantasy books in the first place. So if you love immersive world building, character growth that is earned and plays a vital role in the story, tension that builds rather than rushing between the love interests, this book should definitely be on the top spot of your TBR. The Throne Seeker by Jamie June. I got this one as an ARC through the Nerd Fam, and I am so thankful that they sent it to me because, like, I think I asked for it truly based on the cover alone, and the book was a vibe. The book was a whole freaking vibe. Because in The Throne Seeker, we get to follow Rosalie, who returns to court after her father's death, I think like a year prior. And they are completely broke. They're destitute. But good things that their family's really good friends with the king. So they're kind of okay, but Rosalie needs to get married ASAP. So what should be straightforward quickly becomes her just trying to survive because the king goes, you know what? I'm kind of done being king. And to get the next, generation on the throne, you have to compete in a series of challenges. She didn't get a say in, the fact that she's going to be participating. These challenges are extremely public, and during them, Rosalie starts experiencing some strange abilities that she cannot explain. The court begins to grow increasingly unsettled and frenzied, and it becomes clear that something much, much bigger is brewing underneath the surface. When I read this book, it was an ARC, so there wasn't really that much buzz going on around it. So it made the experience feel completely surreal. I remember being at the 50% mark in The Throne Seeker and being like, okay, the competition is like nearly done. In a normal book, like this is kind of where the first book would leave off, but it says I still have 50% and it was an e-arc. And so I was like, did the print just get messed up? Like, or what's going on? Masterful. There was nothing wrong with that print. That book was just getting started. So if you need a book that is like, you have to be in it for the long haul, this would be a great contender. Obviously, what impressed me the most about this book was how clever the writing was. There were so many moments of subtle foreshadowing that were woven into that first 50% of the book, especially surrounding the weirdness of the court and Rosalie's abilities. I didn't even realize all of it until it all like clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh. The vibes were truly chef's kiss. Beautiful. And yes, okay, the love triangle situations get really messy because it essentially becomes like a love pentagon. Like it gets really crazy, but you just need to stay in it, okay? I promise. Just stay in it. Trust the process, ride it out. The book is phenomenal. The Throne Seeker should be on your TBR if you love smart plotting and a delayed payoff. And by delayed, I mean like 800 pages. Also, if you enjoy court intrigue, foreshadowing that makes you feel like an idiot, and stories that absolutely reward patience, this one needs to be on your TBR. Next up, I'm sure you've heard about it. We are all hearing about it. The second book is coming out this year too. Okay, well, a lot of these are first books, so the second books are coming out this year. Okay, I'm sure you've heard about this one, and either you've already read it or you haven't read it because you don't really understand the hype. That's what I'm here to explain. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig follows Elspeth, whatever, who is bound to a cathedral and has been gifted with the ability of having these divine dreams that will tell the future through certain symbols. She has to wear this like thing over her eyes so that her ability stays, I don't know, it's really creepy, okay? For some reason I like these creepy books. But when a night pulls up and then her sisters, because there's like 7 of these girls who have these dreams, start disappearing one by one in the middle of the night in a locked cabin. She does what any sane person would do. She's a crime junkie at heart, okay? She decides to figure it out. Prophecy, faith, and danger all intertwine in this beautiful book. And Elspeth is forced to confront the truth about her powers and her place in the world, all while this looming presence of the mother, or like the head matron, whatever her name is, looms as being the figure that has always told her what to do with her life. The romance in this book simmers beneath layers of lore and atmosphere, and it's never like rushing and intense all at once. It's just slowly and steadily there. Also, I now have a new favorite microtrope because of this book. If you know, you know. Reading this book was such a cool experience because it genuinely felt like a movie playing out in my head, but not like a real life, like, it felt like an animated fairy tale, which was so interesting, and I've only noticed that happens with certain books and certain styles of writing. I did not have it for Rachel Gillig's other series, One Dark Window, or the Shadow King, I think it's called the Shadow King something. I didn't have it for that, but I had it for The Night and the Moth, which is so crazy. That is not to say that the storytelling is not rich, because it is. Everything about this book was very intentional and extremely immersive. The emotional payoff for this book. I was not well by the end of it. I was genuinely crying. I also stared at a wall for a little bit. Like, you know, a book is good when I am like 50% of the way through a book and I start looking up the fan art online. That's what I did. I needed fan art of these two. This is a must read for your 2026 shelf if you are wanting an atmospheric, emotional, and deeply immersive book, especially if you love a slow burn romance with a haunting setting and stories that feel mythic in their delivery. Okay, quick pause, you guys. I want you to finish this sentence for me. A romantasy book that should be on everybody's TBR this year is, and let me know so that I can add that romantasy book to my TBR too. Because I'm always looking for new book racks. And I know that my book besties have the best taste. All right, let's get back to this list because the next book emotionally wrecked me. I got this one as an ARC 2 from the Nerd Fam, and it was insane. A Requiem for Fallen Stars by Hazel S. Wilkes is completely underrated, but everybody who reads this book loves it. This book follows Lyra, who is a fiercely determined young woman who has to journey to enter an elite but brutal academy where power is a game and freedom, it comes at a cost, and your survival is never guaranteed. She has to navigate these deadly trials, which, like, okay, what romantasy book does not have deadly trials of some degree, right? Like, that's kind of standard. She's also forced to confront the past that she refuses to let define her. This all unfolds in a story of resilience, found family, which is one of my favorites, and you guessed it, slow burn romance that builds alongside the world itself. I loved this book so much that I did a full dedicated review here on my channel so that you could watch it, which should tell you everything that you need to know. If you are wanting to watch it, don't worry, I will tag it up above so you can go click on it, and it will be in the description and at the end of this video. So don't worry, you can get the rest of your recs here. What really stood out to me though was the friendship elements that came into play throughout this book, aka the found family of it all. It wasn't just handled thoughtfully, it was incredibly earned. Every relationship in this book mattered, not just the romance, which, yes, the romance, how fun, you know, whatever, but it's all of it. Not just alliances or whatnot, but it's the true friendships that Lyra made. And listen carefully as I say this. The world building that Hazel S. Wilkes wrote trusted the reader. What do I mean by that? Instead of info dumping, the world slowly unfolded naturally through Lyra's experience in it, which made everything feel more immersive and not overwhelming. I hate info dumping in a romantasy book. Pet peeve, and I will DNF immediately. Oh, and the plot twist, they just kept coming. Every time I thought I had something figured out, no, I did not. So you should definitely have this one on your 2026 TBR if you want an emotionally rich romantasy book that has real depth to it and will actually hold on to your attention. And like, this one has academy settings, which like, yes, do not think Fourth Wing though. No, totally different vibe. This one is much better because it's character driven and not spectacle heavy, right? Like, we can all agree Fourth Wing is pretty spectacle heavy in its academy setting. This book is on my 2026 reread list, which should say a lot anyways. I rarely reread books. Truly, I don't reread books all that often, but when I do, it means I actually genuinely enjoyed that book and choose to go back into that world. So if you want a full breakdown of this book, go watch my full book review of it. Book number 5 is Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This one. Very rarely do you have so many standout romantasy books in a single year, so 2025 was a real treat, and Metal Slinger, what an insane experience for me. This book follows Bryn, who is a trained guard whose loyalty is tested when hidden magic, buried truths, and a handsome enemy soldier comes and challenges everything that she has believed about the world that she lives in. Political unrest builds and dangerous missions unfold. Bryn is pulled into a web of mystery and found family and slow burn tension that is set against the backdrop of a seafaring world. It genuinely felt so fresh. This book came out of complete left field for me. I felt like I randomly found it on my Kindle, which is very strange. And I think I found it a few days before it was published. So I have no clue what happened. I have no clue. I got no clue. Not my business to know. All I know is that I read it and I loved it. And like, after I started reading it, then suddenly it was everywhere because its release date, but I saw it like in Target. I saw it all over all my feeds. Like, I was shocked, and I completely understood why. It was so, the story was so fresh, and that's kind of like what hooked me from the very beginning. The world was so different than what we've been presented with in the past. Romantasy worlds, they can all kind of start to blur together, right? But this one is a village set in the middle of the ocean, and like not on an island. Like, they built it up. There's also the military structure of it and the unraveling of secrets and like leadership being icky and just all kinds of stuff. It really built on the shared experiences of the characters, so I was completely sold. If you are feeling burnt out from the same old fantasy romance books, having the same general, storyline, setting, all of that, this is the one that you should have on your TBR because it will refresh your love for the genre. If you love layered world building, a little, or I guess a lot of dash of mystery, and say it with me, slow burn tension. Yep. Then this one deserves a spot on your 2026 TBR. Okay, finally, and you might say this one is like not a romantasy, it's a cozy fantasy, but whatever. It's cute. And this is my video. This is my list. I wanted to add this one to it. Violet Thistlewaite is not a villain anymore. Violet is a former dark sorcerer's right-hand girl. She was bad to the bone, but she is determined to start over again after his death. She relocates to a quiet town that was once terrorized by him, opens a flower shop because she has like botanical magic that she has only used to create bad things with thorns. But she's determined to use her powers for good now and create flower bouquets. And she tries to live so quietly. But she is drawn into this lingering magic and mystery that is happening on this small town. And she also kind of falls into the whole slow burn love of it all with her grumpy neighbor / landlord, who happens to be an alchemist who has like his own whole dark past thing. And he also lives next door. It is a story about redemption, second chances, and you are the one who truly gets to choose who you are. You get to choose who you want to be each and every day. And in this book, Violet sees that if she wants to choose to be good, she can. This book genuinely felt like a warm hug, and I read it while I was on a trip, which always makes it stick a little bit more in my mind. This one also really tugged at my heart, and especially for anybody who's gone through a major life change and has done like a complete 180 of their lifestyle. Violet is actively choosing goodness and not looking at the darkness anymore after seeing what life could be like. And watching that journey is incredibly meaningful. For me, some of that whole narrative of Violet really resonated with the changes in my own heart after I was saved in 2024. And that's a bigger conversation for another day, but that heart change that Violet even had with deciding to not be part of the darkness and instead be part of the light, that really just resonated with me, even though this is a secular book. This is not a Christian cozy fantasy. It's a very secular book, but aspects of it resonated with me, okay? This book is also cozy and sweet and full of found family and banter and nosy neighbors. Also, the MMC love interest, he is grumpy for a real reason and it's rooted in trauma. Doesn't make grumpiness okay, mind you, but he's not grumpy just for the sake of being a broody, grumpy male character. No, he's like legitimately grumpy because he's traumatized. So this should be on your TBR if you are wanting a fantasy romance book that is more healing than chaotic. Okay guys, we made it. Those are my fantasy romance picks that I think you probably overlooked last year, but they should definitely be on your 2026 TBR because they deserve way more attention because they're genuinely so good. Every single one of these books gave me something different, but I kind of noticed like all of them had slow burn tension, so that says a lot about me. Maybe it says something about you. I don't know. So as you are building up your TBR for this year, or if you're feeling burnt out from the same recommendations over and over and over again, I really hope that this list helped you find at least one book to add to your TBR that will change things up for you. If you enjoy fantasy romance recommendations like this video, I'd love for you to stick around and subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss out on any of the other videos that I post. I post a new video for you to enjoy each and every week. And don't forget to tell me in the comments below which Romantasy book you think everybody should read this year, because my TBR is always accepting new edition. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, Book Bestie, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!